Hello, I'm in Pottsville, Arkansas. Looking at this old town of Pottsville. Here's the old grocery store building. This road right here used to be the old Highway 64, the old military road, Trail of Tears route. And the present day 64 has relocated beyond those trees back there on the other side of the railroad track. But this used to be the old road. This was the original road. And right here is Potts Inn. Potts Tavern, Potts Inn. So there's several historical markers here. And this was the old stop, an old tavern for the Butterfield stage, even before the Butterfield stage. Potts family in the Civil War. Kirkbride Potts built Potts Inn in the 1850s, and it served as a Butterfield stage route stop. When war began in 1861, Potts joined the Pope County Home Guard. 4 sons were in the Confederate Army. Thomas Joseph and Richard Potts enlisted in the 1st Arkansas Cavalry Battalion in 1861. Joseph was taken prisoner in 1862 at Corinth, Mississippi. Richard was captured at Darnell in 1864. Thomas later joined Gordon's Arkansas Cavalry and died in Price's Missouri raid in 1864. William Potts joined the 3rd Arkansas Cavalry and was killed at Corinth on October 3rd, 1862. Kirkbride Potts, with help from his wife, Pamela Logan Potts, designed and constructed this large, stately building between 1850 and 1858. He patterned it after the classical revival style he knew in his home state of Pennsylvania. However, he built it with local labor and native materials, lumber for siding and trim, bricks for chimneys. Lathes and plaster for walls were designed and finished on site. Only doors, mantles, and glass window panes were factory made and shipped up to Arkansas River. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here. So I'm told that Quantrell might have stayed here. Also, this was because the family was involved in the Confederacy, and this was a famous and popular stop back in the day. It's very possible that Jesse and Frank James could have stayed here. Butterfield's overland mail. Needing reliable mail service to California, the U.S. government hired John Butterfield, 1801. What does that say, 1869? Operator of a stagecoach company in New York to operate an overland route from 1858. Butterfield's Overland Mail Company delivered mail and passengers by stagecoach and wagon between the Mississippi River and the West Coast in under 25 days, running via Arkansas, Texas, and New Mexico on its way to California. This 2,800-mile-long southern route avoided snow and was the longest stage line in history. In Arkansas, 2 branches of the route converged at Fort Smith, a north-south road from St. Louis, Missouri, and an east-west road from Memphis, Tennessee. Butterfield's service on this southern line ended in 1861 due to the onset of the Civil War. Potts Inn. John Kirkbride Potts, 1803-1879, was born in Pennsylvania and moved to Arkansas in the 1820s. In 1828, he settled by Gala Creek, eventually acquiring 650 acres of land. Potts went to California in the gold rush of 1849. He failed to strike gold, but returned there twice in the early 1850s, driving cattle to feed the miners. With his profits, Potts built this grand home for his large family. Completed in 1858, the house's location on Butterfield's new overland mail route made it a convenient stagecoach station and inn for travelers to spend the night. Potts Station also served as a post office with Potts as the postmaster. Pottsville was later named for him. And these old cabins and houses over here were moved onto the property from around the area. This is it. I'm told these bricks were made on property on the site. Potts Tavern, historic stagecoach tavern erected by Kirkbride Potts with slave labor. This tavern was a station on the Butterfield Overland Mail. It was operated as a tavern both before and after the existence of the Butterfield Overland Mail contract. And you have the old well house. It's original. This is it used to be the kitchen. Would have been the kitchen back in the day. And the connecting part is new. It would have been, this kitchen would have been totally separated from the rest of the house. Potts family lived in this house, in this place, until the 1970s. It's the old well. It's the old well house. And right here is an old Osage orange tree. And this tree, look at the size of it. It's from the 1790s. In 1790, when this tree began growing, President George Washington delivers the first State of the Union address. U.S. Supreme Court meets for first time in New York City. First U.S. Census authorized. Benjamin Franklin, one of America's founding fathers, died. 13 years later, in 1803, Kirkbride Potts was born in Pennsylvania. The Louisiana Purchase was 13 years in the future. Arkansas would not become a state for 46 years in 1836. It grew beside the military road, a heavily traveled road in the early days. 1790. This tree has seen a lot. A tree from the 1790s. Bois d'Arc tree is also known as Osage orange, hedge apple, or bowwood tree. Historically, the wood was used by Native Americans to make strong and resilient bows and arrows. The early settlers also used it to make hubs, spokes, fence posts, and yellow dye. Before the advance of barbed wire, living trees were used as fencing. Bois d'Arc trees are dioecious, which just means only the females produce fruit. Our tree is a thornless male variety that does not produce hedge apples, oranges. In 2021, the Arkansas Department of Agriculture Forestry Division estimated that the tree started growing in 1790. When Kirkbride chose this location for his family's new home and inn, the Bois d'Arc was already 60 years old and probably a large shade tree. It saw the construction of the Potts Inn, stood fast throughout the Civil War, and welcomed community members home after both world wars. It witnessed the last Potts family members relocate in 1970, saw the grounds transformed into the museum it is today. Now you too are a part of this tree's history. These 7 horseshoes were found when they was digging this hole for this sign. So here it is, a tree from the 1790s. And if over here, Big cast iron pot. You can heat up a lot of water in that, or render down a whole hog. And then this is the old smokehouse. This building was originally used as a smokehouse for the inn. Smokehouses were used to preserve and store meats. They were kept secure, and the meat was hung to keep animals away from the food. The hand-hewn logs were used to construct this smokehouse were recycled from the first home Kirkbride built in 1828. A lot of old structures here that were around the area and moved here onto the property, this present day museum. But try to get this one last thing in the footage here of this nice old cabin. There's another nice old cabin down at the end. Look at this. This is just awesome. Small door, unless they don't have all the logs. All doors in the back. Look at this old tractor. I think it's supposed to be from 1917 or something like that. Early 20th century. Awesome little tractor. Oh, there's the hand crank right there. So this was probably gasoline, diesel, or kerosene or something. Rather than a steam. I know there were some old tractors that ran off steam. It's interesting. So there you have it. Potts Tavern.